Hi, I'm making another YouTube video. So today I thought that I would talk about wilderness therapy. This might not be interesting to most people, but like I find it to be a thing that I wish that I had seen people make YouTube videos about before I had gone to wilderness therapy. I don't really know like fun ways of telling this, but I will try. I went to wilderness therapy in Vermont. I went to a place called True North Wilderness. I started there when I was 15. It was November of 2015. I had been in a partial hospitalization program. They were telling my parents and telling me that I had treatment-resistant depression and that I needed a more immersive type of therapy. I had no idea what the fuck it was beforehand, but I remember when they told me, I was just sobbing and I did not want to go. So I was really upset about that, and then 3 days later I flew to Vermont with my parents. I really don't want to be talking about wilderness therapy. Okay, I just had to leave for a small amount of time because I just did not want to make this video. Not because it's no one's forcing me to make it. The goal of wilderness therapy, I think, is to just kind of strip you of communication with home, phones, electricity, power, food, refrigerator, any of that stuff. Just pull you out of your comfort zone in every single way and kind of just make you get to the basics. And when you're doing these basic things like trying to find firewood and trying to learn how to make a flint and steel fire, you're kind of just left with these simple tasks to do that really start to get you thinking about yourself and whatever is your issue. I think most of them are out in Utah, New Mexico, Colorado. So that's what I think wilderness therapy is about. When I was flying to Vermont, I got a kidney stone while we had just sat down on the plane, and so we had to be escorted off the plane and I had to go to the hospital for the kidney stone. But later that day we got another flight to Vermont, to my dismay. I just remember that I got to the home base of the wilderness place, and they asked me to take off all my clothes, take off all the jewelry, and they gave me just really basic layers to be wearing. We pulled out in front of this mountain. It was 2 miles up to get to the home base where the group was. So yeah, that was my first hike, and I had a kidney stone, so I was uncomfortable, and I was also just really emotional. I just got a ass load of texts. So it was really hard for me because I didn't do much hiking. I live in a very flat part of the world. And we hiked up there and I was sweating and I was crying. We got up there and I was just kind of in shock. There are 2 guides that rotate in your group, and your group is usually 3 to 6 people. Every week. God, why can't I talk? The guides would switch out and it would always be 2 of them. Oh, did I mention that when I was walking up the mountain, I had this big fucking 60-pound backpack on my back which had my entire life in it? Anyway, so I got to the base that we were at and I learned how to tie a few knots. I learned how to put up my tarp around some trees that I would sleep under, and I was just this is who I'm about to become. But anyway, on my first night I had this enormous panic attack, enormous. I could not believe that I was being sent there, and I was screaming and crying, but it didn't matter because I was in the middle of the woods and no one could hear me, except for the people in my group who were very annoyed. My Snapchat updated on its own. It'd be like that. So my first night was really rough, to say the least. Sorry, I'm really not good at storytelling, but average stay at the wilderness that I was at was 3 months. Those weeks go by really fucking slow, especially when you are 15 years old. Since I got there in November, I missed Thanksgiving, my 16th birthday, Christmas, New Year's, which was sad because I'm a Christmas baby, so I love spending the holidays with my family. Another small detail about my wilderness day is that we had a therapist who would come out into the field and meet with us twice a week, with each of us individually. My second week there, my parents wrote in a letter that they were getting separated and that my dad had moved out, and I was just really just upset. I walked away and I walked back to the group. Everyone was collecting firewood. They were really expecting me to just burst into tears because I'm a really emotional person. I started collecting the sticks, and then I started referencing vines that I really liked, and everyone was just kind of just shocked, and they didn't say anything back to me, so I was just talking to myself, just reciting a bunch of vines. What was I saying? Okay, I'm sorry this is so scattered, but I have 3 filled notebooks from every single day of wilderness, and I was there for just over 3 months. And this looks like I wrote this like 80 years ago. It looks really weathered, but that's because it was like I burned it, I dropped it in creeks. Okay, let me tell you about like an average day in wilderness therapy. We would sleep in under tarps outside until it got like below 10 degrees, and then we started to sleep in like shelters, all of us, instead of separately. A lot of times you would be woken up to it either like raining or like a squirrel like sniffing your hair or mice running over you. It's really warm wake up. I might be remembering details about this incorrectly. It was like 3 years ago. By your like second week, you had to learn how to do a flint and steel fire, which is like, to brief up the process, it's basically you have like this piece like shrapnel of metal. I don't think that's a word. And you would find like quartz rocks in the woods. You would take like mechanics rag, like red rags, and you would do this like process where you would like put them in an Altoid can and put them in the fire until they got embry, and then you would bury them and suffocate it, and they would turn into like these really flammable pieces of fabric. There's like a technique, and you would like strike the steel against the rock quartz, and you would hold the char cloth in your pinky, and then it would catch a little ember, and then you would blow on it until the whole thing kind of like started to burn. Then you had already prepared a cone, which was stripped birch bark, folded into a cone, and then stuffed with tinder that you had hand peeled from birch trees. So it was just like really thin pieces that you would oil up with your hands. You put that in there, and then you put the char cloth on there, and then you'd blow it until it caught into a flame, and then you would put that in the fire. That was like one of the more badass things I've ever done in my life. I have the student curriculum book. I saved this. Sorry, I'm talking excessively about this. I'm gonna keep going. You had to drink 3 Nalgene bottles of water each day, which doesn't sound that hard. It was really hard when it was really fucking cold outside and your Nalgene would freeze and then you were just like chewing ice. And if you didn't drink the 3 bottles, then you were like fucked. We also recorded our mileage that we hiked every day. That was a big part of our day, was like fucking hiking. So while you were there, like you of course make really close friends with the people who are there with you. We like spent so much important like childhood growing time together, so we just, I don't know, we saw each other in really raw states, and the most raw that a human can be. I still have talked to 2 of the girls that I was there with. We talk every single day. We have a group snap, a group chat. When I was there, I had like the most sad experiences of my life, and sad moments and like panics and realizations and just like huge growing moments. But I also had like the most fun. Like we were the only entertainment for ourselves, so we were doing the funniest fucking shit. That whole fucking thing was like a really long acid trip because there was just so much going on and it did not feel real. Everyone was tripping their shit out. I've never laughed as hard as I have out there. And we would write down all the foods that we were gonna eat when we got back, because all we were eating every day was oats in the morning, canned tuna for lunch every day. Sorry, I almost just threw up. And then for dinner, it would be switched up, but basically it was like rice and lentils, rice and like bean powder. I spent my 16th birthday out there, and that was like seriously the best birthday I've ever had. We all went down the mountain. There was like a field and we got like a kickball and we played kickball, and it was a really nice day for December, and that was just really nice. It sounds really stupid and simple, but I was like so happy that birthday. Requirements to like graduate from the program, obviously to like get there therapeutically, but also you just have to finish your like hard skills, which is basically like a flint and steel fire was one of them. You had to learn how to make like small game traps. You would never actually trap any animals, but you'd have to like make them out of wood. Like you'd harvest a tree. I wish that I still had my traps, but I threw everything away. Like this is a picture, a trap rock, and then you would fashion like these out of wood that you would harvest a tree from. And my traps took for fucking ever, but finally I did it. My traps were fuego. So there's a big part of it was learning how to identify trees. People these days that like my friends and stuff, why did I phrase it like that? I'm like known for constantly identifying trees that I pass by when I'm with people. I memorized so many trees, and now like every time I see those trees, like their whole plant identification just pops into my mind because I would work on memorizing them. So I guess it's a cool thing that I can identify trees. And then the biggest thing that you had to learn how to do is how to bow drill. You should look it up. Look it up online. It's a way of starting a fire. It's really, really hard to do. Also, fun fact, you can't audition for Survivor if you know how to bow drill because you have too much of an advantage. So all in all, wilderness therapy was the best experience of my life, hands down. In the beginning, it was, of course, extremely difficult just because my world got flipped upside down completely. I like gained my purpose and my drive from wilderness therapy. I really had to like reflect inward and learn a lot about myself. I like met the best people ever when I was there. I'm sorry, I know that this is just really, like, I realized from the start that this wasn't a really interesting thing to talk about, which is why I took a break in the beginning, because I had to prepare myself. Okay, well, that's all I have to say about that. That's it. Bye!